Hello and welcome to the Michael Mamas Show. I'm Michael Mamas, and we're coming to you from Mount Soma, home of the Sri Someshwara Temple in the mountains of western North Carolina. Today, I want to talk about kind of like what's going on in the world. How can you avoid hearing about all the different theories, about what's going on behind the scenes, what's really going on, for example, with the thing June 6th, where not everybody, but a bunch of people raided Congress, and all the different conspiracy theories, are they plotting a coup, and from one side, the coup is that the Democrats overtook the government with bogus elections. From the other side, there's a coup going on where Trump, with the military, is going to take over the current government, and blah, 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 blah. And I just feel like, people are kind of fearful and confused and really wondering, what's really going on. So I thought I'll give you my bottom line as to what is going on. And I don't think it's really what people expect or on the level that people may want me to be speaking. But it's, if you want to really, really know what's really going on, and really, according to the ancient seers, according to the ancient masters, according to the ancient secrets, this is what's really going on. And that is that people are too caught up in, there's a song, a Dylan song. I often quote Dylan, and there's this one line out of it. It's called Bob Dylan's Dream. And I think it's the fifth verse as I saw it. And it said, as easy it was, it's a song about, he had a dream about in years gone by, he and his friends would hang out and just laugh and sing and had their opinions about the world and kind of had it all figured out, And he said, as easy it was to tell black from white. It was just that easy to tell wrong from right. And of course, in his reflections, he's indicating that, kind of like in his other song, but I was so much older then, I'm younger than that now, and that's what's really going on in the world today. I mean, my goodness. I don't care which side you're on, Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, whatever. You got it figured out. And you cannot believe that the other side is so stupid. I mean, haven't you heard that? I imagine you have. And that's what's going on in the world today. It creates this unbelievable tension. And so on the surface, that's what's going on. But now what if we take a step back and look at that? As easy it is to tell black from white, it was all that easy to tell wrong from right. I talk about the I get it syndrome. Because I'm sure you get it already, what I'm saying on some level. You get it. Oh, yeah, this guy's clinging on to this paradigm. Oh, he's already said that, paradigm identity, blah, blah. And then these guys are clinging on to this other viewpoint. And you can understand what I just said. But I call that the I get it syndrome. I remember Jesus goes back 20 years or so. I was giving lectures in New York. I was teaching classes there for a while. And I started talking about unity, the state of unity consciousness. And some guy got upset and he said, "You already talked about unity. Tell us about something else," That's the I get it syndrome, If, just because you have an intellectual concept of unity or an intellectual concept of enlightenment, just because you get it on that level doesn't mean you get it, And what's really going on now is what lies deeper than the I get it syndrome. Oh yeah, they have that viewpoint, but I get it and I'm cosmic and so whatever. Because what's really going on now is that, as I've said, we're going through this phase transition. It's a shift. And it's not a shift into new thoughts. We're not going to come up with a new set of thoughts that resolve the conflict or anything like that. It's not new thoughts. It's a new way of thinking. It's a new mechanic. It's a new paradigm is even too superficial a word, really, because it's a mode of function. To think of it just in terms of a paradigm is the I get it syndrome all over again, really. We're talking about a new mode of function. I've probably cited this. I know I've cited this before, but there were, it's worth mentioning again. There was a study done at MIT, kind of cruel. They took these little kittens, they put them in a room with all vertical lines, nothing but vertical lines. And they let them live there for the first few weeks, I don't know how many weeks of their life. Then after a period of time, they took them into another room and stuck them in there, and it was all horizontal lines. What did the cats do? They flipped over on their side. Right now, I'm telling you, the ancient seers certainly said this, but I'm just telling you, in centuries in the future, 1,000 years from now, say, they're going to look back at this time. We've talked about the Dark Ages, right? That was 1,000 years ago or whatever. This is going to be the age of oblivion. And why is it oblivious? Because there's such powerful identity to this viewpoint or that viewpoint. And whatever viewpoint a person has, they get it, and they pigeonhole everybody else based upon that viewpoint. And son of a gun, if the whole world would just think the way they thought, the world would be fine. And that is just so not it. And that's not what's going to happen. 1,000 years from now, when we look back, people are going to have an expanded vision. They're really going to understand a deeper meaning too. As easy it was to tell black from white, it was all that easy to tell wrong from right. Now, on one level, and I actually think that this is kind of what happened to Dylan in a way. I mean, I really respect him tremendously and all, but at the same time, I think he ended up a little despondent about life because he felt like there was no answer. There was no bottom line, and it's because we're living in a world where all the lines are horizontal and we're on our side. Nothing's making any sense. There's no bottom line. What do we have to believe in? Give me a new belief system. Tell me what to believe and have it be something that works. And that's just not the way life works, So what's going to happen is, everybody's going to stop lying on their side. They're going to be standing straight up. The lines are going to be going vertical, reaching to heaven, reaching to that place that is beyond identity paradigm, beyond a belief system. And that place, that space of unboundedness, no thingness. The only true knowing is knowing that you know nothing. That's not going to be a notion that you get, and there's the I get it syndrome again. It's going to be a state of physiology, a state of consciousness, a state of awareness that's going to that's going to create a completely different relationship with everything that we think we know. And it opens the gateway to limitless paradigms, to limitless understandings. You know, if you take a pencil and you hold it this way, it's like a line with about a 1/4 inch in diameter or something, you know, a pencil. So you look at it, okay, I see the pencil. Now, if you take that same pencil and turn it this way, all of a sudden now you just got a little circle, a 1/4 inch in diameter. And there you see the pencil too. But that's kind of like paradigm identity. You're both looking at the same pencil, but the angles of view are so different that it gives a whole different perspective on what the thing is, how it works. Imagine a level of life where the confines of your own awareness are not from a perspective, but it's from a state of consciousness that embraces the full spectrum of all possible perspectives. And so wisdom, then, you see, isn't finding that ice cream cone in the sky paradigm to align with, the side to take that's finally right. Wisdom is aligning with the paradigm that best serves the moment. In that sense, there is no bottom line. We're all looking for a bottom line. There is no bottom line. Or if there is a bottom line, it's a cosmic cushion. It's a cloud, a probability cloud. You see, it's just a cloud. And when the awareness, you know, there's that expression, you don't come here, you have to open your mind, you know, free your mind. Well, that's what it means to free your mind. And it's not enough to just get it. Oh, okay, I get it. It's a state of awareness that's cultivated. And it takes time to cultivate it. I mean, one of my pet peeves, you know, is you see these people and they start getting into spirituality, for example, or maybe, I don't know, Vedic knowledge or whatever. And they study it for a little while and then, oh, I get it, you know, and you know what happens? Maybe a month into it, maybe a few years into it, they decide they're enlightened. Oh, I'm enlightened, I get it. That's the very beginning, rudimentary beginning, mistaken for the goal. If you want to speak in terms of goals, mistaken for the end, mistaken for the culmination of the evolution of human awareness. You see, I saw a thing that I thought was pretty interesting. I thought I'd bring it up. Somebody was saying, what was it? Truth, freedom, unity, and diversity. And the question was, right, what's more important, truth or freedom? And then what's more important, unity or diversity? And people would pick a side, you know, it's this, it's this, it's that. And there are arguments, well, you know, freedom is good as long as, but freedom has to have a responsible relationship with the nature of truth. And diversity is good, but it needs to be have a responsible relationship with unity. And so people struggle with the idea and then try to come up with things like that, responsible. What does responsible mean in that regard anyway, really, ultimately? So the value of this knowledge now, and this is just one example, is that we know that unity is that place of no thingness, that cosmic cushion, that underlying basis of all existence that's beyond thingness, beyond limitation, beyond paradigm. That's unity. And it's the integration of that state of unity with diversity, holding different viewpoints, holding different perspectives, the whole diversity of human possibilities, you see. And it's holding those things in the context of the wisdom, the intelligence. Infinite intelligence is infinite wisdom, unlimited, unbounded, no thingness. And it's the integration of those things that makes sense, that reconciles the debates, if you will, about what's more important, diversity or unity. Truth and freedom, what's more important? Truth versus freedom. Well, with our understanding, we come to get freedom. Freedom is a quality of truth. Truth is a state of freedom. It holds all possibilities. Whereas if we think of freedom without understanding that underlying context of what freedom is, well, if dogs run free, why can't we? I want to be free. And you create all sorts of ridiculous notions about what it means to be free. Okay, well then, responsible, good. That's a good step in the right direction, but it still doesn't really grasp it. Freedom isn't a state of affairs in the world. It isn't what's going on the surface. Freedom is a state of awareness where the consciousness is truly free from the boundaries of paradigm identity. You see? And I just thought that was one of many good examples. It's not a set of thoughts. It's a new way of thinking. And it doesn't mean, okay, well, I'm going to start thinking that way. I get it. I get what you just said, and I think it's really cool, and so I'm going to start thinking that way. No, that takes something that's beyond paradigm and turns it into a paradigm. And that's not what we're talking about here, It's all about them cultivating a healthy relationship with things. And so what we do here when we cultivate that state, what Mount Soma is all about, we're building a technology that radiates that value of unbounded state of awareness, true freedom, ultimate truth, but not truth in the ultimate truth that, oh, well, he's got the rule book. No. It's beyond all of that. But it's radiating that unbounded value throughout the environment so that people become truly free, truly diverse, in accord not with what somebody tells you your nature is, but in accord with your own true nature, which turns out to be in harmony with Mother Nature. Truth. So diversity isn't a no holds barred, anything goes thing. No. But it's also not confinement, not restriction, not a limitation, the clipping the wings of your own nature. Because your nature is in harmony with Mother Nature. And when we create that in the environment, and there's a technology to do it, and that's what we're building at Mount Soma, then people start to live in harmony with Mother Nature, in harmony with truth, in harmony with the diversity, the uniqueness of their own nature, and become truly free. That's what this whole thing is all about. And that's what's really going on right now, is we're going from a phase transition. We're moving out of this whole I get it syndrome thing. And geez, if everybody just saw it the way I did, the world would be fine. We're moving beyond all of that. We're freeing our minds. We're in the phase transition that goes from an age of ignorance, which the ancient seers have been talking about, to an age of golden age of enlightenment, which the seers are saying this is the transition time. Now, that's our theme, that's our purpose, that's what we're focusing on, that's what we're striving to attain. And once the mind becomes free from such limitation, a whole new world of technologies become available. You want to know how the ancient Egyptians built the pyramids? Free your mind first, because the technologies that they employed were not consistent with the, not easily identifiable, might be a better way of saying it, through the looking glass of the paradigm with which modern science and even classical science these days is currently identified. All sorts of technologies. And you want proof? Is this just theory? No, there's plenty of proof. The pyramids is one. All sorts of ancient temples. How in the world did they do that? We have no idea. Granite pillars, when you tap on them, they ring, and nobody has any idea how they did it. All sorts of ancient technologies. And if you look at the history books, and that's what they are, they're history books, but they're from so long ago and viewed now from a portal of perspective of limited identity that says, oh, that can't be true. They couldn't have had, flying machines, or it must have been UFOs or something. I'm telling you, we're coming into a great age. This is the time of phase transition. And I've been trying to promote this, I'm telling you. I mean, it's been decades. It's been decades. And people hear it and I get it. And then it's not a judgment, but it is kind of frustrating, that they go about living the paradigm which they're identified with. But see, it's a programming, it's a physiological state. I can't be judgmental, they can't help it. That's how they view the world, Anyway, this is the time of transition. We're in a great time. And times of transition are turbulent times, but that will pass. And we'll see how it all shakes out. But we know it's going to be something great. I'm here with Adrian Dewey in Phoenix, Arizona, and Scott Davalos in Los Angeles, California. And do you guys have anything you want to add or comments or anything?
You mentioned earlier on a different podcast about something with like Chinese astrology and February 10th. And that's just like 3 days ago. And I'm wondering what that's about.
Yeah, it's in a few days. That's a good example, actually, because there was a friend of mine's Chinese, and his English isn't great, but it's good enough, and really nice guy. And he was saying that in Chinese astrology, that's like the tiger, the goat, the whatever, that system. This February 10th, when all these planets are clumped together, all except one, I guess, it's going to be a moment that's going to boost this transition. See, the Chinese astrologers talk about this time as being a transitional period too, but they specifically talk about February 10th as something that's going to give that a boost. Well, I talked to a Vedic astrologer, great astrologer, and asked him about it, and he didn't see that it's going to be that big, huge. I mean, it's a powerful time, all those planets together, but it's not going to be this big, huge boost. And I found that interesting because one guy's got the pencil going this way, the other guy's got the pencil going this way. They're looking at the same pencil. And see, that's one of the values of having the mind free to move from the paradigm that serves the moment best. Because what's readily identifiable via one perspective, it's there in the other perspective, but it's not as identifiable. You see, is that responsive, Adrian?
Yeah, really interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting,
I think the pencil analogy was really great, especially to explain the difference between, the Chinese astrology that's thinking there's going to be a boost, and Jyotish that is like, oh, yeah, not that much appears to be happening,
Yeah, and even the different political perspectives, looking at the same pencil, but very different viewpoints,
Yeah, I think that's what's going on, in countless arenas and in society, and then in our mental awareness these days,
And that's the point. That's the point. Chinese astrology or politics, or those are just two examples, but it applies to everything in life. It applies to your relationship with other people, relationship with your friends, relationship with your relatives, relationship with your spouse. In Vedic literature, they talk about prapancham. Prapancham kind of means, it has different meanings on different levels. On one level, it's what we think of as a universe. In Vedic knowledge, there's one universe, but there are a bunch of different prapancham. And we all share a particular prapancham. But then there are subdivisions where each individual has their own prapancham that interfaces with this greater prapancham. I forget where I was going with this now, but each prapancham has its own relationship with, its own viewpoint, its own relationship with everybody else, So it's just an important concept, You have your universe, prapancham. I have mine. We all have our own, And so an important part of healthy relationships, you see, on one level, that's just a concept, but on another level, I think it helps us get along, There's no ultimate prapancham, There's an interesting thing, too, that we talk about how everything maps. And I was sharing it with somebody, there's this idea of the swastika, and how it's associated with the Nazis. So a lot of people, the swastika. But of course, the swastika is an ancient symbol that was around way before the Nazis. And it's there also in many religions. It's also there in the Vedic tradition. And it's also in the sky. If you look at the North Star, and then there's the Big Dipper, the handle points to it, and then you got the dipper, right? If you were to take a picture of that, and then wait 3 months later, it rotates, right? Everything rotates around the North Star. 3 months later, you take another picture of it. 3 months later, you take another picture of it. 3 months later, you take another picture of it. Then you superimpose those 4 pictures, and you get a swastika. So the Bindu point, the central point, the North Star, is kind of like the source of the manifestation from the perspective of this prapancham, the earthly prapancham, you see, because, that prapancham is mapped onto, that viewpoint of the prapancham is mapped onto this whole greater prapancham, what we would consider our universe. Now, at that Bindu point, we're going to talk about the rishis here. This is what the rishis are. The rishis are considered the seers. And rishi value is like the transcendental self, the essence. And so you've got that Bindu point. It's like the Atman, that central point, that touch point where the relative enters that Bindu point portal into that which lies beyond, the transcendental fullness, the totality, you see? And that totality then is the source of this prapancham. And then what it does is each of the stars in the Dipper represent another rishi. And the rishis then, all taken together, are kind of like the parameters that uphold this propunction, this universe. And so that's what the rishis are. You know, sometimes you'll hear about the rishis, oh, they're the seers, they're the guys that cognized the Veda and wrote down the Veda. Well, yeah, that's true, but they're so much more than that. You know, they're actually operators in the mechanics of creation. They're called the upholders of dharma, the upholders of, well, on a superficial level, well, it's fine, but, you know, righteousness, but it's even more than that. It's order, it's structure. It's that which maintains and feeds life, feeds the whole propunchum, upholds it, you know. And just interestingly enough, there are tons of propunchum. What we consider our universe is one. And then you've got the operators that are the source of not just this propunchum, but all the different propunchums, of which there are an infinite number. So that's where the idea in modern physics, they theorize about the existence of multiple universes. Well, yeah, multiple propunction. And what those underlying structures are that dwell kind of, from our perspective, we would say virtually within the absolute, within the transcendent. That's where the Holy Trinity, that's where Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu come from. But you see, when they manifest through into this propunchum, it's just a small part of that greater mechanic that transcends, if you will, our propunchum. And it comes through the portal. That point comes through what? Brahma, the creator. You've probably heard that. Brahma, the creator. And Brahma birthed, and this is physics, really. I mean, you can hear it in terms of personified, and that's true too. Two sides of the same coin. But at any rate, Brahma, that quality of the creator that created this universe, this propunchum, birthed it through a mechanical operator called Atri. Atri is the son of Brahma. Atri is a mechanic of creation. Atri is the rishi, the seer, that's in charge of this, you could say, in charge of this particular propunchum, and is supported by all the other rishis, you see, and they work together. There are tons of rishis, but the main ones are called Sapta rishis, and those are the different stars of the Dipper. You see, does that all make sense? Scott, Adrian?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting. They're right there in the sky.
Now, Michael, does it, to make your individual propunchum, is it collapsing down from those mechanics, and then it's
a beautiful question, really.
Yeah.
Yes and no, because we each have our own Atman. We each have our own Bindu point that comes from the totality. At the same time, we are functioning within, yes, the propunction of this universe. They kind of interface. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the answer is both. It's and you see it everywhere in nature. Everything maps. You know, you have an oak tree, a big tree, and off the oak tree falls one little nut seed, and it births another oak tree. So multiple Atman. You see, that tree itself had an Atman, and it just keeps going like that. It's all right there. It's all right there. It's all a self-interacting dynamic. And that self-interacting dynamic creates a hum, you know, and that's called the cosmic hum. And there was a famous, to get around the science of it, that they heard a hum in some cosmic telescopes from, I think it was IBM, or I can't remember. And they couldn't figure out, how do we get rid of this hum? What's wrong with our equipment? There's this hum we can't get rid of. Then they realized what they were doing is picking up the cosmic hum. You know.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it is cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can also hear the cosmic hum in deep meditation, but don't try to hear it. And you will wonder when you do, is this the cosmic hum or is this a ringing in my ears? It doesn't matter. Anything else, you guys, or is that it for today?
Well, one thing I was thinking of early on was maybe good to talk about how you talk about, you know, it comes out of the, you know, the unified field up into like we have the finest feeling level, and then it goes into emotions, and then it goes into thoughts, and talking about how it seems like we've been operating more from thoughts are ruling how we do things from, you know, and then getting confused, you know, because like, is it a feeling or is it a thought, or, you know?
It's a beautiful, beautiful question, and it so fits into what we're talking about. Is that right now we're all caught up in thoughts. It's called the I get it syndrome. I get unity, I get enlightenment, therefore I'm enlightened. That's the thought of enlightenment. And then what happens is, oh, we make a mood of it. Oh, it feels, oh, I feel it. And oh man, and this is incredible. And but it's all upside down. There's a value to understanding things intellectually because it kind of it's knocking at heaven's door, so to speak. It kind of helps sort out the mind, but we're really and free from identity, if nothing else, open to the possibilities, which is really what this podcast has been all about in a sense. But where it really comes from is that depth, and that depth. That transcendental unboundedness, as it emerges into the relative, as it wells up through our being, it doesn't well up as a concrete thought. It wells up as a very fine feeling. And I'm not talking about emotionalism. I'm not talking about, oh, I feel one with everything. That's the finest feeling level. The finest feeling level isn't even necessarily the finest feeling you're capable of feeling in a moment, because the physiology has to be really, really refined to touch into that finest feeling level, that very refined level of existence. Subtle perception, you see. Now, as that wells up and starts to permeate the physiology, our being, our awareness more and more, it gets to this point where the feelings kind of start to emerge into reason. Things become reasonable. Reason, as we reason, what we're really doing there is we're finding that interface between concrete thought and fine feeling. And then as it wells up more and more to the surface, then our thoughts become coherent, become integrated with that place that transcends thoughts, transcends even feelings, even the finest feelings, and merges with that place of no thingness, that place of true knowing. Things are thoughts. True knowledge is beyond thoughts. You see? Is that responsive, Scotty?
Yeah, for sure. It feels like right now with the agendas that everybody's pushing, whether it be political or life or whatever, you know, it's all trying to drive a thought narrative that people are like in almost a daze about, or if you don't have the awareness around it, you know, it can drive you. You know, your thoughts are not being tools, you're being run by the thoughts.
That's right. We think our way through life, so we really don't. We feel our way. And how refined your ability to feel is without getting overwhelmed by thoughts or emotional discharge, emotional distortion, charged emotions, passions, things that distort. And those can come from childhood experiences that become integrated into the programming of how we function. I guess in psychology, they call it your wounds, your issues. And those things all color our thoughts and color our feelings. it's also beautiful too, because it's not about those things and getting rid of those things. I'd like to say that people aren't supposed to grow out of the ground. Trees aren't supposed to grow out of the ground like 2x4s. It's the twists and the kinks that give them their beauty, really. But the thing is, it needs to be healthy. It needs to have solid roots that feed and nourish the tree. And then, whatever the little twists and nuances are based on the sum total of our life experiences and impressions, they don't overshadow. And the tree is plentiful, abundant, healthy, exquisite. And that's why when everybody is enlightened, they won't all think the same way. They won't be members of the same political party. They'll be independent. They'll be free. They'll be diverse. But the nectar of divinity will fully imbibe the totality of their lives. You see? It's all beautiful, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
All right, I guess that's it. And we'll talk with you all again next week on the Michael Mama Show. Happy Super Bowl Sunday.